Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Vader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the opportunity to catch up with Justin Johnson. He is the founder and CEO of Motivate. And Motivate is an AI product that is really kind of hyper-focused on distribution and really solving a smaller challenge, micro challenge. And, actually, probably for all of us in the distribution world, it does kind of feel like a macro challenge, but it's really around quote and order matching or quote and order entry. And this is something that, several companies are working very hard to try to attack. And I've listened to several of them, had a few of them on the show. So maybe some of this does sound familiar. But I think it was really fascinating where Justin, has a little bit different take, as you'll hear through the episode. And I think one of the more interesting things is he really kind of understands the landscape of what AI and automation can do inside of our companies. And so that's really why I asked him to come on and really talk with me a little bit about these different areas of focus where we could apply AI and, make our companies more profitable. And as you all know, that's really my shtick is profitability. I want to make sure that you are as profitable as humanly possible in these organizations. And I believe that AI is going to be a huge game changer for us. We just don't know what the heck to do with it yet. So I think each of these episodes I do, I'm really trying to chip away and narrow the focus on what can we do and what can we utilize these amazing tools to make ourselves more profitable. So I hope you enjoy the conversation with Justin. I mean, I really enjoy his perspective and really his experience. I think that's it. But again, I enjoyed the conversation with him, and I hope you do too. This episode is brought to you by Connected Peers, an online peer collaboration platform for distribution professionals. Let's face it, most managers don't have the opportunity to speak with their industry peers about common challenges in their departments. Sure, they might see each other at an annual conference, but that hardly provides any real relationship building or continuity. What if there was a forum to solve challenges with those in your same role? Well, now there is. The concept is simple. Purchasing managers meeting with purchasing managers, training managers meeting with training managers, marketing managers meeting with marketing managers. You get the idea. There are 10 unique role-based communities to choose from. These are monthly, facilitated meetings all via Zoom. Ask questions and receive feedback from people who understand the challenges of your position. Isn't it time that you quit going it alone? To learn more and find your peers, visit us at www.connectedpeers.com. Well, hey, Justin, welcome to Distribution Talk. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with me today.
Thanks, Jason. It's an honor to be here.
So one of the things I love to do on this show is really kind of take a look at the background of the people that I interview on this show. So if you wouldn't mind, could you tell me a little bit about, kind of what got you interested in technology, and then more specifically, what turned your attention towards the distribution space?
Yeah, it's quite the journey. I think for a lot of people, I spent my, early career as a software developer. Worked for a company called Engineered Software that did sort of piping schematic, pressures and flow calculation, all those different things. So we worked with a lot of different equipment vendors, manufacturers and distributors both. Moved into the product management side pretty quickly because I like to run, products and all those different things. Ended up working with a company called Big Machines, which did the original CPQ products for manufacturers. So that was like 2000. So the early days of automating the paper catalogs that everyone used to carry around.
Oh, yeah.
1,000-page, right? And
Sure.
So we digitized that and built, arguably one of the first CPQ products, configuration, pricing, quotation, to allow, not on the phone, but on the computer, you could configure products to get the right model number. So that was my, early days into understanding this industrial side, both on the manufacturer and distributor. I went off and did other startups and ended up doing, this is now my fourth company in the distribution space. I love it because there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of challenges to solve. There's amazing people, writing great technology and a traditional business like a manufacturer distributor and automating those processes, helping people sell more, helping them get better visibility into their customers or the market. It's always really attracted me. And then when you start to build the relationships, with these companies and you start to build products for them over and over, it's really exciting. So that's why I've been here. I'm tech background. I love tech. I love creating solutions to challenges. And so that's sort of allowed me to be here for close to 25 years now.
Wow. Yeah, that is a bit of a journey. And you know, it's funny. I mean, I talk to tech guys all the time, and there's not many of them hung out for 25 years. I'll put it that way. You know, they they haven't seen the good, bad, and the ugly, man. So
I love it.
yeah, I mean, some of those earlier endeavors, you know, kind of gave you that opportunity to see that there are a lot of small challenges inside distribution, you know, and really you can head down rabbit holes, but trying to look at, you know, what are the ones that are barriers to profitability? And that's kind of been my shtick always is, you know, when I work with clients, it's always, how do I remove barriers to profitability? And I think there's a lot of these micro challenges, you know, these things that really, they make it difficult for people to achieve, you know, or to really reach their potential. And that's where I think technology is something that we can use to kind of chip away at these little barriers.
Yeah, that's a very long conversation because I think it's super, super interesting. It's something I think about almost every day. Well, I definitely do every day because I'm building solutions around these micro problems. You know, we look at the process automation as a particular bucket. Yeah. We look at a sales automation as a particular bucket. And then we look at a, you know, customer communication as one.
Yeah.
We look at how, I'll start with the sales automation and how organizations, distributors are evolving, right? From the order takers. So, you know, having inside salespeople sit at the phones, waiting for orders and quote requests to come through. And then the outside reps are going to the plants and to the factories and everything else and maintaining those relationships so that when they're ready to buy, they're going to buy from us. Those still exist everywhere, but, you know, there's a lot more competition. There's online players, you know, strictly Amazon Business, for example, that aren't doing that. They're just providing a way for people to buy very quickly and very easily. So you and a lot of us have talked a lot about how do you maintain that competitive advantage as a distributor on the sales automation perspective without having, well, we need people, but do we need the army of people to do it, right? Versus also allowing people to buy quicker and easier. So there's that from the order taking perspective, but then there's the outbound. There's the prospecting.
Right.
How does a local distributor compete with the other local distributors, often selling the same products? Well, you've got to anticipate the need before it happens, before they call you, let them know that you're there. So, you know, we talk about AI in that capacity. We look at the last 2-3 years of order data, and we can start to put trends and patterns together for that microservice. We can say, here's an upsell situation because the customer down the street that looks just like that customer has also bought these 3 products, but that customer didn't for some reason. There's slippage alerts. Let's look, you know, they bought something for 12 months and then all of a sudden they started to dip. Those alerts have to be in place. So that's where AI specifically can handle that sales automation component.
Isn't it really, you know, kind of looking at almost you're like mining through a BI application, you know, this business intelligence application is supposed to be, you know, gathering the data, but then it's like great, it gathers.
Yeah.
But now what? You know, now where are the insights? Yeah. Where are the, hey, what do I do with this mountain of stuff?
That's really well said. And I've had hundreds of conversations with distribution leaders about this because you have your inside sales team.
Right.
And we don't even care if it mines a bunch of data. People these days aren't going to pick up the phone and make cold calls. Customers aren't going to read cold emails. Right. Everything is about timing and when the need is present. So what we think about are tasks. When a CSR comes to work every day, sure, they're handling the inbound quotes and orders, but what about the outbound? That CSR wants 15 tasks a day based on the highest priority actions that need to be taken. This customer has a pump that, you know, has a life cycle of 3 years, for example. Well, guess what? It's 2.5 years. Somebody needs to call them because if that thing blows up, they're going to probably shop another brand. Let's get ahead of it. So that's a good example, right? Being predictive about things, but also mining the data and then providing that bite-sized task list to that rep so they can act the way we want. And they're not mining a database of a CRM with a bunch of cold leads. I mean, you know,
they're just not going to do it.
They're not.
They're just not going to do it. I mean,
I wouldn't either.
Look, I've been trying to, yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been trying to, you know, work with clients on this, you know, on this inside sales, outbound reach for years now, years and years. You know, and intuitively you'd think, well, can they make 6 outbound calls a day? Well, sure they could, but they don't. For some reason, there's this barrier. And whether it's a personality type barrier, I don't know. Or I think to your point that it's, I don't really know what to do. It's like, since I don't know exactly what to do, maybe if there was this task list or this, direction every single day,
Yeah.
maybe that would be a difference maker. I'm not sure.
Well, the other thing that is they need a goal and they need a reason or a purpose to make the call.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And anyone that calls and just like, yeah, I know we need to touch base with that person because we haven't in a couple of years, but what do I talk about? Well, you should talk about the fact that they didn't buy the warranty package last time, or the fact that the life cycle of that product is about up. Let's look. It's just like everyone needs a purpose and a reason to pick up the phone, because no matter, even the most bold of sales reps need a reason to call so that they don't sound like they're bugging them. Right. And that's why being proactive about it and giving them the task with the reason and the purpose matters.
I'm going to go down a kind of a goofy rabbit hole
Please
here
do.
That's been driving me crazy for a lot of years. All right. So again, with this same idea and thought around the inside salesperson actually making an outbound call, or, spending, originally I thought, hey, can they just make 12 outbound calls a day? And I was clearly mistaken that 12 was just not going to happen. So I was hoping for six, still didn't get that. So, I was trying, but I think here's the big challenge, or again, we can call it one of those micro annoyance challenges that we have in distribution. And you and I spoke about this earlier, was the dormant accounts. And I've been polling my clients, and I've been around distribution long enough to know that probably 60 to 70% of the accounts on the books, and these are people that have open accounts to buy. We've set up trade credit with them. We've vetted them. We know their credit rating, all of this stuff, that for some reason they've stopped buying from us, but they still sit on the books. So 70% of these accounts, and we're talking, it could be thousands and thousands of accounts, have not made a purchase in the last 12 months. And so this was that list of people, that bucket of people. I thought, wow, what if we could get the inside salespeople to reach out and make phone calls? Right. And it just never happened. I can get access to the data, but they don't do it.
Sure.
So how can AI attack this?
Well, I go back on the statement I made just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do us a lot of good to attack it 12 months later. We should attack it the month that attrition starts happening.
Goes dormant.
When it goes dormant, because that's
that makes a lot of sense, Justin. Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that we can't have AI go back and analyze their purchasing patterns, what they bought, the market they're in, maybe feed a little bit of seasonal time period. Maybe they bought during this time period. Well, let's not bug them in June when it's been, November that they bought everything for some particular reason.
Right. They're buying snow melt, and we're not going to bug them in June for snow melt.
Right. So we can sprinkle all sorts of logic into the AI in that database to come up with not only the timing, what we should ask them to buy. And then it's just about cadences. It's about a couple emails, introducing maybe a special on snow melt, and then followed up with a call or two.
Right.
But the combination of both of those for dormant accounts matters. Maybe a discount, whatever we can do to bring them back in.
Well, and I think just even simple questions. Are you still in business?
Yeah.
That's something that I imagine plagues, that if you look at this bucket of dormant accounts, and, especially in the contractor community that I grew up in, I grew up, selling to contractors, and contractors go out of business all the time, for one reason or another. Bad job hits them and bam, they're out of the game. Yeah. So even just asking those questions, but really, I think your point's well taken. Why wait for the 12 to 18 months before? Why not 3 months after we haven't seen any activity, start, some form of contact?
Yeah.
And I think that's really where the question comes in, is what is the method of contact that would work?
Yeah. It's a combination of certainly email. There's a lot of companies have text campaigns that are messaging.
Yes.
Not sure if I'd recommend that now after this political season and us being bombarded with all the political candidates.
Goodness.
That sort of ruined that avenue.
God. No kidding, man.
The other thing that people just completely forget about is the phone call. They don't forget about it. It's hard, like you said. Can I get somebody to make 6 calls a day?
Right.
80?
Right.
Well, it still takes that group. And the reality is you got to motivate those people as, outbound callers financially, and mostly a reason to call.
Right.
You give somebody a list and don't give them any context. They're just like, why is this person hasn't been there in 12 months? So why would I call them?
Why should I even waste my time? Yeah.
And it only takes two getting a deadline or a person that's not there. And they're like, why do I waste my time? So
I'm going to make myself too busy doing other things.
That's it. Yep. I'll find a way to get busy.
I will find a way to make myself too busy to do this. No, that makes sense. So, really thinking about, all right, if we're not necessarily going to rely on the phone call because we feel like that might be our weaker link. I like the idea of the email. I mean, I think that's an interesting idea, at least a starting point.
It's easy.
Yeah, as you said, it's easy, but it's also I think from a technology perspective, it's relatively easy as well.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean.
To create these campaigns.
Exactly. Yeah. It is easy. And to put a cadence together and based on the action, if they clicked on something, then don't send the next one. Or you can even, if they did click on it, but they didn't respond, send it to the DSR to follow up on a call. There's a lot of different patterns in plays that you can run there to be effective on the outbound.
Well, I think the attractive thing, at least as I was thinking about this and going through this, is like, okay, so I've got this bucket of people, and let's call it 1,000 dormant accounts. Again, how long would it take a physical human being to either send the email or to place a phone call to 1,000 people? Well, if you're trying to do 6 a day, it's going to be an awful long time.
Very long time.
That's an insurmountable amount of labor associated with it, time. So, but your, AI or really it's not even AI at this point, but your programming, you can send those emails in 24 hours.
Yep, for sure.
It's an instantaneous, it's a quick way to at least get the first salvo out there. The first, I'm sending it out. Let's see what happens.
Right.
And I guarantee there's going to be activity. And I think that's the mentality we should have here. Not that every one of those 1,000 is going to hit and I'm going to make money on every single one. It's, it's really a numbers game. It's like a few of these are going to hit. And isn't that better than what I'm doing today?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing is you're going to learn what bounces back and what doesn't. So, the truly dormant accounts, the folks that have been out of business because it's not going to go through. Then you'll find the people that are engaging that need callbacks. And then, you can set up another sort of, resend to the unopened, right? And you can even build in based on the AI database you analyzed. You can say, hey, Joey, we know you bought this product XYZ 6 months ago, and we see that you haven't bought. I mean, that's all possible with the way we structure that email for specific calls in the database to bring in real insights. And the open rates are always better that way. The click rates are always better that way. And then give them a call to action. Hey, click on this link to schedule a Calendly meeting with our local account rep, right? I mean, it's all possible, but you can certainly wake up plenty of dormant accounts that way.
I think so. And this is something where I just to become very interested in this because I do know this is a challenge inside of distribution right now. This is it's one of those opportunities, where you listen to an owner and go, God, I wish we could, how do we get a hold of all those people that we already gave credit to and they're just not buying anything? So yeah, good. No, I mean, I think that's interesting, and I think if I recall correctly, you said that, this is kind of like, technology of 3 to 5 years ago. This is not brand spanking new stuff, that's something that your company and other technologists like yourself can solve a problem like that relatively easily.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is. I mean, most of the marketing people within these distribution groups probably have the technology already. Let's just find out who these dormant accounts are and put a plan together. Take a week, and then you're going to know a lot.
Interesting. Now, and I think it'd be interesting to actually just at least coming back and populating, do we have the right person's name?
Yep.
Those types of questions to ask.
For sure.
I truly believe that there's an opportunity there. This episode of Distribution Talk is sponsored by InSQL Distribution Software. InSQL is a fully functional distribution-based software package. I only recommend software packages that were purpose-built to serve distribution, and these folks do it very well at a price point many smaller distributors can afford. Economy doesn't mean compromise. This company is on the cutting edge of distribution-friendly applications like VMI on mobile devices, mobile signature capture, mobile CRM, warehouse management software, and e-commerce development. If you're ready to step up to a fully loaded, scalable distribution package at an affordable price, look no further than InSQL Distribution Software at www.insql.com. That's INXSQL.com. Okay, so that's the sales automation, or really that outbound reach.
Yep.
So, you had mentioned quote and order automation. So tell me, I mean, that's the big arms race right now. That's the hottest thing, at least I see in distribution. But could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. And I mean, the concept is pretty straightforward. We have a process that's been going on for hundreds of years where a lot of customers, depending on the size of the organization, we're talking hundreds, if not thousands a day, are sending in quote or order requests. And how are those quote or order requests coming through? They're coming through from email mostly. Some people are calling, and some organizations accept text messages from their contractors in the field.
Right.
So what happens to that information? All distributors have ERP quote and order systems, and the formatting of these requests are anywhere from a picture to a handwritten note to a PDF to an Excel file, all over the place. So it's very difficult to ask a customer to change their format because that's how they do business.
Right.
And it's also very difficult traditionally to be able to put that raw, unstructured data into an ERP. That's why we have our customer service teams. Many people that get our products, that get our customers, pull that in, and they're entering SKU numbers, descriptions, searching up the right fit with the catalog in the ERP, and then producing a quote or an order.
Yeah. And this has been tradition. I mean, this is how I grew up in distribution. This has been tradition forever. And I mean, frankly, the email side, is only, maybe 25, maybe 30 years old at this point. But, if you really look at your, distributors, again, depending on the vertical market, I think in industrial, you see more and more of this asynchronous communication, this email or text, inbound.
Yep.
And I will say text is probably more reserved towards your contractor markets. There's a lot of that there.
For sure.
But there's still a lot of phone calls that come into these folks. But so you got a mix of both right now.
Yep.
But I think we're really talking about trying to attack the email and inbound text.
That's right.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. So AI does a lot for that. Not available 5 years ago, but with the technology that's available now, you can read the content in an email or attached to an email or a part of a text at a very, very high degree of accuracy. You can understand unit of measurement. You can understand that, sticks of wire are only sold in 10 feet of length. I mean, it's an amazing thing. And then you can match it. It's harder to do a great match with a catalog, but it's available. And certainly, some applications out there now, as you talked about the sort of arms race with some companies are looking at it.
For sure.
And you essentially, take a job that took between 15 and 30 minutes to manually enter into an ERP. You make that 10 seconds. You empower that CSR to be more accurate. And then you allow them to spend more time with the customer ultimately, right? To upsell, cross-sell situation that we talked about in sales automation. Like, let me get to know you a little bit instead of spending all my time trying to crank out this stack of quotes that I'm looking at from the last hour, right?
Right. I think what you're really talking about is if you could take that bucket of the unstructured data, the asynchronous email, if you could move that to an automated state,
exactly,
then the phone calls that come in, which they still will come in. That's just the nature of these types of relationships. The phone calls come in. Now that CSR can actually, as you said, take time and really, provide this exemplary customer service here.
Yep.
So I think that's kind of where right now, I think that they're challenged because of the time constraint.
That's it.
They've got so much coming at them at once. And I mean, let's just face it, we as distributors are not able to hire enough labor to do both sides of the fence very well.
Yep, that's right. It's really hard.
I mean, I hate just to be the guy who actually kind of takes, the blinders off here and says, hey, look, we just don't have enough people to do this and do it well.
So then who suffers, right? It's the customer,
right?
Because they have to wait. And that's just not acceptable for how good these distributors are at customer service, at product identification, at support, at all the things that they do well. Everyone is stuck with a stack of quotes that all they want to do is grow their business and sell, but it requires a human to enter that in when we can, automate the process.
You and I both kind of listened to one mutual client, and they described one of their strongest, most seasoned inside people who literally, when she comes to the office in the morning, that she has 100 emails waiting for her.
Yep.
And, some of them are not order or quote requests, but a vast majority are. I mean, a ton of those are. So she's basically taking the rest of her day, to fulfill all of those, requests and all of those emails. She can never really be on the phone. And now you've got this person who has decades of experience. I mean, highly, highly knowledgeable about the products and the applications of this company. And she's tied up answering emails.
Right.
There's something wrong with that. I mean, there's just something,
It's hard.
that it's hard. And I just think it's a terrible utilization of that person's intelligence, and their ability to perform in a customer service fashion.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's the smile that comes across the CSR's face when they automated that data entry and now they can make sure things are being taken care of. They're accurate. They go out to the customer is served quickly, and then they can call them and say, I'd love to talk to you about this. Quote, how can we make this an order?
Right.
Or they never had time before. Right. All they were doing is just pushing it through.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
It's special for sure.
Okay. So again, I'm just going to kind of, walk through this in a rudimentary way. So you get this email in, right? And let's say that this person is asking for 10 items in the body of an email, not even an attachment, but this is just the body of an email. It's like, hey, this is John, from blah, blah, blah. And actually you probably already know who it's from because of the email, header and whatnot. Here's all the stuff I need and send it here. Here's a PO. I mean, that'd be actually a lucky thing, but here's the PO. Right. I'm just going to be, this is the utopian time here. But okay. So the AI then looks at this, right? And then what happens?
So the typical implementation for our product, Go Motivate, is that an email comes in and there's an Outlook plugin that sits, right on this person's desk.
Yeah.
And they identify that email as being either a quote or an order, and they click send to Motivate. Behind the scenes, it goes to the Motivate application that's sitting on, the left or right side of the screen. Right. And it reads that unstructured data and then reaches into the ERP catalog and pulls out a match and then surfaces it to the CSR to say, hey, here's the match. Here's what the customer requested. Here's the match in the catalog. Confirm it. If we've got exact matches for most of it, and maybe, the customer's forgot to include the size or the color or whatever on one, it's not an exact match, but we're going to give them, 3 options to pick from. And then the CSR clicks send to ERP and immediately integrates and creates that quote and order and sends it off to the customer. So it's being logged in the, mothership, which is the ERP. It's that simple.
So how does it handle like super jargon? Like, I'm thinking of some of the things that people called, some of the contractors would call an item, and it was high jargon. I mean, this has nothing to do with what you would ever see in the database. How does the system handle that?
The special thing about these large language models in AI, whether you use OpenAI's sort of dictionary or you use others, it's unbelievable that as a software developer like us, the corners that you can look in for these large language models and the terms that are being used, it's unbelievable. It's like they know everything we've ever done. Then if you apply your own logic and your own structure, company that have been around this business for 25 years, we know a thing or two about what's going on. So a combination of all of that, like for example, the other day I saw something come in for a 4-square electrical box, one of the most common ordered products in the electrical space.
Okay.
And somebody hand wrote 4 to the power of 2. Like what? And it nailed it. An exact match.
Oh, that's funny.
So
that's really funny.
Every day I'm continually impressed at how good this is, how much smarter it's starting to become than the human eye. Yeah. So I just don't underestimate it because it's incredible. What people refer to something as in the field and what it comes back in and what it matches to.
And when there's not a direct match, if I recall correctly, looking at yours and other applications, is that you get options.
Yeah.
And then the CSR just picks the one that they intuitively know that contractor really wants, or that customer, whether it's contractor or not. But
yeah, I mean, there's multiple options. We also analyze the behavior of what that customer has consistently ordered, right? If it's not the obvious choice every time that other customers have ordered for 10 years, this customer for some reason wants the more expensive one or the one with something, bells and whistles on it. Well, that's what we're going to recommend. So the goal in this whole thing is to automate and improve the process for the CSR.
Yes.
And so it's just dialed and their user expertise to say, yep, that's right. Awesome. Now let's go talk to the customer and upsell them on something.
Okay. And so, over time, again, I've heard estimates like, that once you turn on a system, like Motivate, that it takes, maybe 90 days to where you're matching almost at 99.x%. Is that a reasonable estimate, or?
I've heard that from some vendors that are out there. I'm sort of scratching my head often to figure out why it takes so long.
Okay, fair enough. So it's quicker.
And that's not a dig on anyone else, other than the fact that I want to know everything about that organization, that distributor, and what they sold to which customers when we onboard them, so that there isn't any time. Let's make them as smart as they can possibly be day one. If we learn more, great. But there's a lot of different avenues that, we know patterns and trends. And, if you have the worst handwriting on the planet, I'm going to nail that day one, not day 90, to figure out what you want there, because I already have a pretty good idea of what you're looking for. And if I have to extrapolate, a letter that looks like a number, I got that. So it's all good.
Well, and I think you just made an interesting point. And I don't know if we really dove into that. I think one of the more fascinating things with this type of technology is the ability to look at a photo, a picture of somebody's chicken scratch. I mean, I think that was the one that blew me away when I started, observing these things, is that literally, they can write it down on a piece of paper and that would be nice. But I mean, people were talking about, well, somebody wrote it on a cardboard box and took a picture of it, or somebody wrote it on a 2x4 and took a picture of it, and your system reads it.
Exactly. We had a roof shingle the other day. The back of a roof shingle.
That. Oh, that's funny. Okay.
Just
an
example.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I know. Yeah. I should send that to you.
I'd love to see. I mean, I think that's fascinating, because I guess what you're talking about is using real world application, meeting the customer where they want to be rather than the form that we want to put them in.
Right. Yep. We got to work with them wherever they're at.
Right.
And I think, we talked a little bit about this, but e-commerce is the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's something that, I hadn't seen. And then all of a sudden, you all had mentioned, we're going down the e-commerce train as well. And I thought, okay, all right, tell me more about that. So yeah, please, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the challenges across B2B distribution and e-commerce, everyone has spent a tremendous amount of money and time on it, which they should, because Amazon and Grainger and everyone else told us this is the future. And I agree. We're not going to replace the CSRs when it comes to that, because people are still going to send their orders in and quote requests in. But everyone built these beautiful, snazzy, fast, smart e-commerce platforms, and then looked at each other at the buying groups or association meetings and said, "How are your e-commerce sales? 1 to 2%. Well, how are yours? 1 to 2%."
Yeah.
I applaud the e-commerce teams in these distribution groups, because most of them, they're wicked smart. They've got it all dialed. They're as smart as anyone in the e-commerce side. Well, what's happening? And then when we sit back and look at it, we say, well, how do people buy? They buy with purchase orders. They buy with handwritten orders. They buy with Excel files out of their estimating software. What do you do with that in an e-commerce environment? Do you look at 10 items and then drift over to the e-commerce side and type in each item at a time?
And if their search bar is any good, you find the item you're looking for.
That's it.
If their search, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest barriers right there, Justin, is for them to find the item they want in a reasonable period of time.
That's right. Exactly. And some offer, enter your item number and quantity and on that sort of quick pad option and make an automated there.
Sure.
But that's for purchasing professionals, not for contractors or people that are in the field or whatever ready to do it. Some have descriptions, some have part numbers, some have internal, catalog ID numbers. It's all over the place.
I like that quick pad idea. I've always liked that. I mean, but that's been around forever. I mean, that has been around since we've had portals, but
it has.
But it also limits you to the 15 items you have on the quick pad.
That's it.
Generally, they don't go any further than that.
And you have to have the right SKU number or item ID. It's not infinite, enter anything in here. And so when I go back to our conversation about the quote and order process, we think about, well, at Motivate, we've written several patent applications to protect ourselves in this technology, but we've deployed a product to the e-commerce environment where a customer can drag and drop unstructured files. We actually have the ability to text or email to cart. Again, that contractor in the field at the job site that wants to order something immediately and doesn't want to wait for the internal team to deal with it can text or email information, get the cart, and then lock it in right there. So that's been a game changer. I think,
For sure.
There's several companies that are doing the internal process automation, which is a wonderful thing, but empowering the customer to control their own destiny at the time that they need to do it. I mean, that's what everyone's been saying for 10 years, 20 years, but the technology is here and the people that are here to implement it, which is really fun and exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about, as you said, you can text, or you can, or those who actually dig on, placing orders in their off time.
Yeah.
They want to use e-commerce.
That's right.
You actually kind of use the same methodology we just talked about. And, you take the order information in the form the customer wants to create it in. That's I think that's the big aha moment. And then it just gets matched to your e-commerce catalog. And I think that's really interesting.
But what we do is we turn that matching confirmation back on the customer side.
Right.
So when we match it, then there's a confirmation, and it's not going to get 100% match.
Yeah.
But it's going to give them 2 to 3 products that maybe they didn't identify the exact criteria to give us that match. Mm-hmm. And it's on their phone or their tablet, their computer in the field, and they say, go. Mm-hmm. But you're right. We can't ask them to fill out templates, customers, buyers. This has got to be about what they have at the moment and tell us when you need this product this afternoon. And then it's sitting in the queue, ready to go. Mm-hmm. That's how distributors accelerate their business and grow sales. Ultimately.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I think you hopefully move from that 1% to 2% of transactions to the, man, what if I could make it to 5% of my transactions,
Right.
Or 5% of my SKUs desired. I mean, I think that's where it starts to get good. And you go, God, now I actually am going to get an ROI on the e-commerce investment.
That's right. And what we're seeing is, a lot of distributors just have a limited set of their most common products on e-commerce because they just assume that no one's going to buy anything else. And now they're thinking, wait a minute, this should replicate what I've got in my, ERP catalog. Let's just make sure it's all available if this is truly how they want to get this done.
Actually, I do have a client who has been working on this, and not only is it things that are in his ERP, but he has said, nope, just give me the whole catalog from every supplier I work with, whether I stock it or not. It don't matter. He's just like, man, game on. So, I mean, he has multiple, X of what is physically stocked. And it's been, a huge game changer. So now this allows for a lot greater matching and greater capability. If, now a person can say, well, I want this. And it's like, okay, you can have that. It's in your cart. Just say yes. And get your credit card out or through account. Sure. Very interesting. I think that's taking, kind of as we talked about the arms race of the quote and order automation, and now adding the e-commerce, adding another layer to it, another nuance to it. So, but, again, client communications, you mentioned that earlier. Could we talk about that for a few minutes? I know that we're running a little long here, but that's quite all right with me, at least. I'm enjoying this.
I talk to you all day, bud. This is great. Yeah. I mean, client communication, there's a lot of opportunities there for whether it's a chatbot on the website, whether it could be an automatic reply in an email. There's a lot of different things allowing customers to text in orders, but because we know so much about that customer in our ERP data, we know who they are, where they're at, what they've bought, what they should buy. If you sort of implement the upsell, cross-sell information, then not only proactive conversations in email, like we talked about at the very beginning, the dormant accounts or the active accounts, either way, right? They're scheduled to buy this product next week. Let's get ahead of it.
Sure.
This is when they're set to sort of replenish this. Let's get ahead of it and remind them. And we can easily provide them a link to the e-commerce with the cart already loaded with that product.
Right.
Or, auto response if somebody's trying to chat us up and no one's around and they say, hey, when is this product available? Or is it available, right? Obviously they need to be logged in and communicating and authenticated, but we can say, look, there's 5 items now. How many do you need? I need 5. Excellent. Here's a link to make the order. There's a lot we can do with AI and client communication to give them the information they need when they need it. And they don't have to wait until we show up at 8 a.m. the next day.
Yeah.
They're ready to rock. When we show up at 8 a.m. the next day, we ship the order instead of take in the order. Right?
Yeah. I think, and even I remember, rudimentary to many, but for those of us in distribution, sometimes we're a little thick on the uptake on things, and we just don't know what's available to us. I think that's
Sure.
the biggest thing about this.
Yeah.
And once we find out it's available, we're all in, man. Let's go. Let's go. Let's just, much to our detriment sometimes, but something as simple as like an order acknowledgement via text, or even your order is ready for pickup.
Yep.
I mean, I used to love that when I would order from Panera Bread. Hey man, come get your food. It is sitting on the shelf.
Yep. It's an amazing satisfaction to a buyer.
Yes.
That somebody heard you and is responding to your need.
Right.
It's big. And what's more annoying than not getting that message and knowing my order was ready 50 minutes ago, and then you're like, wait a minute, now it's cold.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or sitting in, sitting in a will call for multiple days.
Yes.
And nobody had the time or the bandwidth to reach out and say, hey, my back order came in. That's where I think the automation could come in.
Well, it's so critical because we're also talking about people, right?
Yeah.
So somebody can be proactive about all of that. When you send a message saying, it's here, Susie's waiting for you at the dock to pick it up. And Susie goes out and meets Johnny at the dock to pick this up. And that relationship is money at that point, right? Susie, during that time, didn't have to take time to send a rudimentary basic message that the product's ready. And she can do other things, proactively call customers or do some other things, and then shows up at the dock and they're greeting each other. So, distributors are busy. It's a production-oriented business model, right? And identifying how some of this basic tasks can be automated so that they can spend more time at what they're so good at, their client relationship and the product knowledge, and instilling the knowledge on, and all of it, right? That's what's so special and needs to be recognized. But you're right. We all have to sort of get up out of our chair, breathe, think about what we can do to take this business to the next level. Otherwise, we're just going to keep doing the same thing. And that's not just distribution. That's every business.
For sure. No, absolutely. I mean, and really, Justin, thinking about this stuff is anytime you do have client interaction, like a lot of people don't think about the credit department, the accounts receivable department, and how could we automate some of that communication so that our, credit specialists there, are, I like to call them sales completion specialists. When those folks, if they can have time to actually talk to a customer and talk about their credit needs and terms and things like that, but they've got too many bodies they got to chase, and too many, again, if we can move some of that over to an automated state, I think all of a sudden now that human has the opportunity to develop the relationship with somebody on the payable side on the other side. So
accounts receivable, accounts payable, all of it. I mean, we're talking about dealing with unstructured data that doesn't necessarily template our current system. So allowing them to scan and input that data and then use their gift, which is checking for accuracy and making sure things are there, and then moving to the next and making sure that customer is taken care of, is a beautiful thing.
It's funny. So, you and I can come up with different solutions in our head or challenges, these micro challenges in our head, and I've never done this on the show, but I really want to do a quick call to action shout out to anybody who's listening on this. There are challenges in your business today, in your distribution business today, that you have an inkling that AI might be able to solve. And I think one of the biggest disconnects or the chasm between technologists, Justin, like yourself, and distributors is that, you all have the technology to solve, but you don't always know the challenges that they need solved. The distributor has the challenge or the thing that keeps them awake at night, but they don't know if there's technology to solve that. So I'm asking the distributors or whoever is listening out here, what are the problems? What are the things that you would like to see technologists like Justin solve and build? And because again, they know what they're doing, they know what is out there. Together, I think that you all can come together and, really create these micro applications, to solve, common challenges in distribution. And that's really hopefully where, I'm kind of trying to be that connector between the two of you all and get some of those challenges at least addressed and decide, can AI work with this, or can an existing technology take care of this? And maybe it's not even AI.
Love it, Jason. We appreciate all that you do, because that's exactly what you are, as a connector, right?
So before I let you go, how can somebody find you? How can somebody find, Motivate and, because I want them to look at the product, and get ideas for themselves.
Yeah, we're happy to show people. For sure. So our website is gomotivate.com. Check it out. We've got a number of the solutions listed there. My name is Justin Johnson at GoToMotivate. Email is jj@gomotivate, but I'm on LinkedIn. Look me up. Would love to have a conversation just about the industry. Like Jason mentioned at the end, if there's challenges that are hindering your business from growth, like myself and others would love to hear about them. We may not turn a product around immediately, but this is how we innovate. And this is how we grow to give you solutions to get to the next level. So we're always happy to talk about that.
Well, I'll definitely put all that information in the show notes so people can find you. And I certainly hope that they do reach out to you, and really try to come up with some solutions here. So, hey, Justin, thanks for taking the time, my friend. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure chatting about this stuff with you, and look forward to the next time our paths cross.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider sharing with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast application. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by the brilliant team at the Creative Impostor Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, the Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.